Al Jazeera podcasts.
Haitians seeking asylum face a familiar obstacle to freedom, the color of their skin.
When you're Black, the moment you show up, they know you're a migrant. They know you're an asylum seeker. So therefore, you are targeted.
Every step of the way, Haitian refugees have had it rough. But now they're bracing for a Trump presidency. I'm Kevin Hirten, and this is The Take. Of all the migrant groups in the United States, perhaps none have a bigger target on their back than Haitians.
The same kind of racism and experiences that they have in the US, they're seeing in Mexico. And I think one of the lies and one of the falsehoods that people have is that, okay, there's no racism. And there's plenty of racism in Mexico, as there's plenty of racism in all of the Americas. My name is Imaeyen. I'm a presenter and documentarian with AJ+.
Imaeyen, before we dig into your reporting, maybe we can start by describing the state of the country these refugees are fleeing. What are things like in Haiti right now?
Haiti is a nation on the verge of total collapse right now, and there are several reasons as to why that's true. If you go back to January 2010, there was a ginormous earthquake from which Haiti never recovered.
I was cooking and everything started to shake violently, and the walls came crashing down. I was terrified. Now I always feel as if the ground is moving. It feels like a cemetery now.
It killed so many thousands of people, devastated homes, businesses, infrastructure, and it never got back up on its feet. Then when you move to 2021, they had the assassination of their prime minister, Jovenel Moise.
We have breaking news from Haiti, where the country's president is dead this morning, assassinated in what's being described as a middle-of-the-night attack. Jovenel Moise had been in office for 4 years and had been the target of months of protests.
And that led to the gangs coming in and taking over, which is the violence we see now. But even before any of this, there's this colonial legacy that has impacted and shaped Haiti's entire existence, where the Western nations like the United States and France have had heavy impact and influence over what goes on here. Haiti's a nation that was a colony of enslaved people that freed itself. And as one person told me, because it did that, it has been paying the price and suffering ever since. Whether it is the US backing propped up dictators or France making Haiti pay for generations and generations for the fact that it freed itself and then spending more than $1 billion to do so over those many generations, leaving it as the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere. Haiti isn't here by accident. What's going on in Haiti isn't here by accident. It is an intersection of generations and decades-long interference, intervention, natural disasters, and now gangs that leave the Haitians who live there in grave danger.
An assassination, a capital city that's been completely overrun by gangs and is just in utter collapse. So as the situation in Haiti has become more and more unbearable, people have fled the country. And perhaps a bit surprisingly, because Haiti is in the Caribbean, many refugees wind up making it to the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, this is where you've done extensive reporting.
Come with me. I'm making my way down to Smuggler's Gulch. This is where coyotes and smugglers come and they bring in all the migrants to cross into the U.S. And overlooking it, we have some of the wealthiest homes in Tijuana.
So tell us about the living conditions there, who you met, and the challenges that they faced in Mexico.
Yes, Haitian migrants are making their way to the U.S.-Mexico border through the Darien Gap.
The infamous Darien Gap on the border between Colombia and Panama is the only land route between South and North America. Those attempting to cross it risk robbery and death.
For some of those people, they left years before because of the economic hardship and spent some time in South America, in Brazil, when they recently had the Olympics there and getting work there. And then when that work dries up, they start to make their way north, up through the Darien Gap, get to Mexico. And there at the border, there has been varying influxes of Haitian migrants there. But the one thing that is true for them is that they stick out more than other kinds of migrants, specifically because of their race, right? They're a separate race. They also speak a separate language, which is Haitian Creole. And so some of them have decided to try and build a life in Mexico and abandon the idea of coming to the U.S. because they believe their American dream might be better served in Mexico.
So you spent some time in Tijuana, in a Haitian neighborhood. The challenges they face are so widespread, right? They're basically being targeted by thieves, some of them, but there's also even environmental challenges. Even if it rains, their lives can be shattered. Give me a little more color about this neighborhood in Tijuana that you visited.
Absolutely. So I went to this kind of, I would call it maybe sort of an encampment where they had a lot of Haitians that were living there who go there. And they're really shacks. Before they were tents, but now they have a little bit more fixed structure. But even using that terminology, I don't think really encaptures where they're living. You're sort of living outside. They are vulnerable to every element. The heat, right? Mexico, Tijuana gets very hot, but also the cold, also the rain. When it rains, that place will flood. There's not a lot of infrastructure to be able to help with that. And even when they use the bathroom, they're using the bathroom in porta potties, right? Or porta johns, which some people may know them as, outside. One of the people I spoke to, a young woman who was there, who's in her early to mid 20s, said, like, even when she goes to bathe, right, it's not a place that's very clean or like very accessible. Everything is a struggle.
Recently, they set fire in the back of our tent, and sometimes they come here to steal people's stuff. We have a lot of problems here when it's raining, and the tent can't protect us from the coldness. It's very difficult.
One of the things that really struck me, just sort of visually, is outside they had an electric outlet board, right? Where you plug things in, where you plug in your cell phone. And my first thought was, well, what if it rains?
Yeah.
What if it rains? You can't plug that in, right? And then even when it stops raining, when is it safe to plug it in? When is there no threat of electrocution? There is no part of this process, there is no part of their journey which has any sense of ease, any sense of peace, any sense of calm. Everything about life in Mexico for these Haitian migrants is a struggle.
So what you're describing is that Haitians wind up stacked up at the border just like everyone else, except they aren't just like everyone else. Most Haitians are Black, and they stand out because of their race. Now, they've been targeted on both sides of the border, not just the Mexico side. So once they cross the border, they also face unique challenges.
Absolutely. The people that I spoke with said there's a specific strain of anti-Black racism which is affecting Haitian migrants. On the Mexico side, that has looked like people targeting Haitian migrants because of their race, kidnapping them, pulling them out, holding them for ransom, stealing from them. On the U.S. side, in the recently concluded presidential election, the future president, the president-elect Donald Trump, told the nation that Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, were eating cats and dogs of U.S. residents and citizens.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
So it's really made them a target. And this history, this tension of Haitian migrants in the U.S. is not new. Even in the 1980s, when Haitians were leaving the island, they were fleeing political persecution. They were showing up here to a U.S. that was really critical of them and not very open, that didn't really want them. They tied them to the then burgeoning AIDS pandemic, saying Haitians were bringing AIDS to the U.S. And you can imagine how stigmatizing that is.
What we saw was a very clear signal that the virus was most likely in Haiti first, and then the epidemic in the US and many countries around the world funnels back to a single common ancestor.
They wouldn't let them donate blood because of that. So Haitians and Haitian migrants, their fight to come here for asylum because of the turmoil in their country has always been fraught. From what I have learned in the process of my interviews, there's really been no time in which they've come to the U.S. seeking help, where there's really been open arms for the government in the ways that we've seen and support for other countries.
There was this infamous footage from September of 2021 of these Border Patrol agents on horseback. They were trying to stop a Haitian migrant from making it to the United States. An investigation by the Department of Homeland Security concluded that these agents did use unnecessary force.
On multiple occasions, several mounted agents used force or the threat of force to drive migrants back into the Rio Grande River, despite the fact that the migrants were already within the United States.
This is the sort of cartoon version of discrimination. But you've pointed out that some of the challenges they face are more systematic. For instance, refugees from Ukraine don't face these problems. Why is that?
Absolutely. From what my reporting tells me, the answer to that question is race. That race is a fundamental factor. It is a foundation of how Haitian migrants are treated. When those images went viral a couple of years ago in Del Rio, Texas, on the southern border, so many people looked at that and said, this is reminiscent of slavery. All of those drawings that you see in the history books of white men on horseback and Black people on the ground. And yes, Border Patrol says it wasn't whipping people. But even if you take the reins and see them twirling them, right, and whipping the air, it's hard to deny the imagery in that as people are crossing the river, trying to seek asylum, which, by the way, is legal. I think that's the other thing that we constantly have to remind people of. Seeking asylum is legal. It's not illegal to seek asylum. Even if we look at how the U.S. has treated Ukraine and what was going on there when that war started 3 years ago and how the nation immediately ran to support it and rally around it. That's not the same kind of stuff you were seeing when stuff went awry in Haiti in 2021. And it's not what you're seeing around them now.
More with Imaeyen after a quick break. So let's talk about what is almost certainly going to impact Haitians who are trying to make the United States their home, and that is a second Trump presidency.
Donald Trump has confirmed he is prepared to declare a national state of emergency as part of a mass deportation of migrants. Writing on his Truth Social platform, he responded to reports that he was considering the use of military assets.
So how do you see things unfolding for the people you've been reporting on who are living in the United States and face this threat?
I think right now what's happening in the Haitian community is a lot of worry, a lot of being unsure. Where do people go? Should they move to places that are deemed sanctuary cities or sanctuary states, or do they stay where they are? What's going to happen to them? There's a lot of uncertainty.
During his time in office, Trump attempted to end DACA, which is a policy that protects undocumented immigrants who are brought here as children from deportation. But he was ultimately unsuccessful.
Hundreds gathered to demonstrate against the Trump administration's halt to a program that's allowed hundreds of thousands of people who came to the U.S. illegally as children to live and work.
Trump also tried to do away with temporary protected status, which allows people from crisis-hit countries to live and work temporarily in the United States.
The temporary protected status program established after Haiti's 2010 earthquake never meant to be permanent.
And late tonight, the Trump administration announced the program will end for good in 2019.
Although he was unsuccessful here, too, his incoming administration is promising to try again.
Temporary protected status is at the approval of the Secretary of Homeland Security. That could end tomorrow.
That's incoming border czar Tom Homan, who's saying with the stroke of a pen, he can revoke the temporary protected status of thousands of Haitians living in the United States. But it's not just Republicans.
I think it's also important to remember that this is not just a Trump administration thing that's happening, right, for the incoming Trump administration. The current administration, Joe Biden, was deporting people to Haiti, even as the U.S. has said, hey, U.S. people, you can't go here. And it has pulled people from there because they're like, it's too dangerous. So it's too dangerous for U.S. citizens to be there, but it's not too dangerous to send Haitians back. That's the kind of dichotomy that volunteers and advocates are saying doesn't make any sense. When those people get deported, oftentimes they're never heard from again. They die. Sometimes they commit suicide. Sometimes they're murdered. So it's not like deporting them means there's this better life for them or that things are going to be neutral. And for the ones who do live, many of them try once again to make the treacherous journey from that island up through South America, going up through Central America to try to make it to Mexico. It's not the end for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's such an important point. Send them home is a useful campaign slogan, but it sounds like actually sending them home could mean certain death, or you never hear from people again.
Absolutely.
One thing that's clear from your reporting is that Haitians are relying on each other to get through these difficult times. You've met with people working tirelessly to help Haitians seek a better life in the United States. Many of them are Haitians themselves or Haitian Americans who know firsthand just how difficult things can be. And I want to ask you about one of them, Gerline Joseph and her Haitian Bridge Alliance.
Every Haitian American in the United States or in the diaspora are afraid that they will receive that call or that text that tells them so-and-so has died or so-and-so hasn't been found, haven't been seen.
You got to spend a lot of time with Gerline. How would you characterize the work that she's doing?
Oh, Gerline is a person who is doing this out of a sense of absolute love and a duty for her people. Gerline is a Haitian immigrant who came to the U.S. As a kid. They were vacationing here one day when she was a kid in the U.S. Some unrest happened in Haiti, and then she and her family found themselves trapped here in the U.S. and then had to build a life.
And when things started to go awry in Haiti, Gerline showed up.
And they said, we have Black migrants at the border, and we have Haitians at the border. And the person who called said, "You're the Haitian I know. You come take care of your people."
And Gerline took that challenge seriously. She co-founded the Haitian Bridge Alliance, which is specifically focused on the unique dynamics of Black immigration and migration, the unique challenges that those people face. And it works on both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border. So she spends a lot of time in Mexico. She also spends a lot of time traveling in the U.S. And so she's really got a heart for this and can get really emotional when talking about this.
Unfortunately, my little cousin who was on his way to work, only 22 years old, got killed. A friend also got killed, and her family got killed. So we are seeing an extreme level of insecurity.
Yeah, and she self-funded this at the beginning. I mean, she's just a dynamo.
Yes, she self-funded for many years, her own money. You know, she's a wife and she's a mother, and using that money that would have otherwise been in her household for any number of uses that you or I or anyone else would use to help fund these people and try to get them aid. Because it's not just the getting here, it's the language, it's the food, it's the education, it's the healthcare, it's the application for the process, it's the lawyers, it's the waiting. There's so much money, and money can also mean time in that sense, that goes into the process of migration that I think is often left out of these conversations, but is crucial. It is part of the context of all of this, that you can't have this conversation without seeing every single facet of what happens around it.
It's so easy to demonize when you don't know people. So that's where I want to end, with maybe a story from your reporting that just sticks with you.
One of the things that stood with me is the level of care and violence, and really the idea of like, we wanted to make it to the US, but the US has become so inhospitable to us that perhaps we should just build a life in Mexico. That the American dream is in the Americas and not the United States of America. And so we will be doing that here, even if it means being beat up by Mexicans who don't see us as part of their culture. And even if it means having to be extra careful, even if it means not being paid well, the same kind of racism and experiences that they have in the US, they're seeing in Mexico. And I think one of the lies and one of the falsehoods that people have is that, oh, okay, there's no racism in Mexico. There's plenty of racism in Mexico, as there's plenty of racism in all of the Americas.
And that's the take. So what do you think? Do you think race plays a role in how the U.S. government has been treating Haitians? Well, let us know in the comments below. And if you want to catch more episodes like this, make sure you're following our YouTube playlists. That is where you're going to find all of our recent content updated regularly so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button so you'll stay in the loop with all things Al Jazeera English. We'll see you tomorrow.